Hello and welcome to episode 10. Can you believe that? Episode 10. So beautiful. And in this episode, I had the chance to sit down with, which I've done many a time, and could have all been their own podcast episode, but that's just not what ended up happening at the time. But I got to sit down with Nicole. Many of you are already familiar with who she is and who she once was and who she is now and all of the evolution that life brings to us as beings. But we shared this conversation, and just naturally, with the experience and understanding of one another and being in relation with one another, we were able to sit in this chat for an hour and 40 minutes, which was the longest podcast I've recorded, and it just happened. Like, it was great, and I felt so happy about that and getting into that flow with someone. And listening back to this episode, as I was editing some of the really loud laughter or the times where we were projecting a lot and things like that, I was laughing quite a bit in post, like in editing. I was having a few little chuckles of her and I sharing this conversation, and I have a feeling that you probably will too, because it was cute and comical and fantastic. So yeah, there's that. I can give you a little bit of backstory, of course, on how I got connected with Nicole and what our I guess history in relation is and was. I believe, I don't really know, but it makes sense, but I believe that I got connected with Nicole way back when I lived in White Rock area, and she was teaching yoga back then. And I don't really even know if I'd gone to any of her classes, to be honest. I think I just maybe started following her. Maybe I saw her a few times. Like, I don't really even know. And I don't think there was much connection between us at that time. But I got familiar with her, I think, through that when I was working at Sage. Maybe she came in. I don't even know. I don't even know. But that would be when I got familiar with her as a person. And then she moved out to so-called Chilliwack. And really in that time is when I got further connected with her. So I attended some women's circles, and I had done some sessions with her in healing work and Reiki and energy work and a whole bunch of things like that. So that would be, I guess, a bit of backstory. And since that time, since coming together in circle, in healing work, in spiritual journeys, in conversation, and of course staying connected in the realm that is social media, and just watching her journey and being not only inspired, but just watching, observing, just viewing her and seeing the ways of life, and actually the way of being, which is currently her Instagram handle. And there's a lot of her that rings true to that way of being. And lately I've been able to do photography session with her. I've done a few of them. We've done, I guess it would be three total that we've been able to share that space together and create and express. And I really appreciate capturing her. And I have a few people that I really like working with. I like working with all of you, but there's a few people that I just really appreciate the session. It's just this like different time together. And with her, it's that. There's not a lot of posing and kind of falling into anything that's super linear and like has to be this way. It has this ability to be fluid and moving, and it is just capturing her being. And I love that, and it's really one of the best ways to capture somebody. I'm going to share here a little bit about Nicole, and then we can get, of course, into the episode. Nicole is a multifaceted, multidimensional, multidisciplinary practitioner, guide, creative, land steward, community builder, and mother. She has always been devoted to exploring deeper truths, creating beauty in a myriad of ways, going below the surface, and passing on the knowledge and wisdom that has supported her life, journey, and evolution. Nicole lives by and carries the skillful ways of her Ilocano, Bisayan, European, and more ancient ancestors who have always navigated her life with the earth, cosmos, mysticism, spirit. She bridges this wisdom forward with her own unique medicine to help usher us through these great times of revolution and shift in paradigm. Through the intersections of her personal inherent gifts, intuitive ways of knowing, the lessons and initiations from life, a lifelong student of the sacred, and her more career-related expertise in visual design, building teams, and entrepreneurship, she offers a well-rounded perspective and embodiment to the work she offers in her service as her sacred responsibility. Just as she has, her work and ways of being have shape-shifted and evolved over the years. At this midpoint of her life, she is refined as simply one who resonates deeply with caretaking, the land, her relationships, human and more than human, the sacred, her passions, children / the future generation, and the very web of life. She shares this quote with us: "Whoever you are, whatever your station in life is, whether or not you have a lofty title, you can, in your own way, contribute to the life-giving forces of this world." By Ate Grace Nono. I will leave Nicole's resources below if you'd like to connect further with her, and some resources that she mentioned as well. We hold space in this episode for land acknowledgement. We recorded this episode in her home in so-called Chilliwack, the lands of the Coast Salish peoples. And last thing, our codes are all below. They're all in the bio. So if you want them, we have them. We've got 3. You can connect with Be Half Moon. You can connect with Aversio if you want a little discount on some mushies. And we have a discount code for Squalwyn botanicals as well. So connect with those if you feel the need. If you need a little something, get a little discount. I think that's all for now. I appreciate you. I appreciate your gifts, your knowledge, your wisdom, you giving me so much, everything we've experienced together, sending all the love, all the happiness, all of the things that make you, you. And I hope that you enjoy this and that you get something special out of this time shared. Okay, everybody, I'm here with Nicole, and we're here to chat, have a conversation about we don't even know what, just whatever comes up. We've already recorded a mini podcast in the living room today. We didn't have the setup going on, but we've already had a full conversation about spirituality and life and all the things, and so here we are to record it, to have it all happen again. So please, Nicole, if you'd like to introduce yourself and share a bit about yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Nicole. Goodness, this is always a funny question for me, especially, it's not even a question, it's just introduce yourself. And to me, that's like a question. And I'm in this like super, as you know, we talk about it all the time, in this really liminal space of like dissolving a lot of identity and stuff. And so, giving any kind of context to who I am feels so weird right now, but I guess, I like to go by matriarch in training, elder in training, earth person, really just finding my way all over again, coming out of, really, really liminal space, as you know.
Right.
Privately, personally, we talk and share often.
Yeah, and I was wondering too, when I was on my way here, I thought to myself, what will she say to introduce herself? What is her, what will you say to say, like, I do this thing and this is who I am? And I was like, she's so, like our photo session that we recently did, undefined and formless. I feel like you're really encompassing or like living that right now, and so that there is no thing to say like I am this person. There's no title.
There's not. Every part of me right now is trying to, not even trying to. Every part of me right now is exploring not being in any kind of box or over identifying with anything in any way. It's just, I'm even losing language. I'm losing language, which it's going to be really interesting for everyone listening, you know, how I'm able to articulate myself in this way. But I'm losing language in general, even in the way I want to speak, the things I want to share, and especially in terms of like how that defines me in any way, because I don't want to be defined right now. Yeah. I don't want to be defined in general. And that's something that I've actually been really reconciling with really recently, you know, because I have a friend who has been doing my website for me for the last 2 years. I've done my own websites for like the last 10 years. I've always just like whipped them together, right? Yeah. But then I have to redo them every year because I feel like I change so much from year to year. Yeah. So then I want to redo my website, but it's exhaustive. And, but you know, I've done it myself because, you know, having the extra means to be able to do it is not always been present for me. And then 2 years ago, I guess, I was like, I want to invest in someone. And so I have a friend who does really beautiful, innovative work. She's a Filipino sister, and she's such an artist and creative. And I love the work that she does. And so I was like, can you do my website for me? And so I paid for the domain name, everything. And I haven't given her any content for it because the dissolving started for me. It'll be 2 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And so I still am not able to define myself or the work that I'm doing or the work that I want to do right now, because I'm just trying to be in my own life and really reconnect, unlearn so much in these deeper layers. And I just don't want to be in a box. I'm very much like coloring outside of the lines of who I am as a being. And I'm really exploring like my multidimensionalness with deliberacy, a lot of intention and deliberacy right now, and trying to stay really grounded through that process. Mm-hmm. But it's really interesting work because so much dissolves around you, and I end up really questioning what is real, what isn't real, as all of these lines around ourselves, all these boxes around ourselves, all of these lines and boxes around our belief systems, the way we operate, the systems around us, everything we've ever known are kind of dissolving around me. And to me, that's a really exciting and beautiful thing. I'm no longer uncomfortable being in this place of pause or in this place of liminality, which I think maybe previously I would have been really uncomfortable with. But I really like it here right now. I think this might be the first time in my whole life, you know, outside of motherhood, I'm a parent, outside of like my muggle job and how I earn a living. Even the words earning a living I don't like, but the way I bring in money to pay, you know, for my life and my home and my food and stuff. So outside of all of those structures that still have to be there, I'm giving myself so much time and grace to be in this place where I am rediscovering and just leaving a lot of curiosity for what could be possible, and envisioning, you know, because I believe in new ways of being for us as a collective, as a planet, as systems. But I know that all of that has to start within me first, within us individually first. And so that's kind of the place that I'm starting at.
Yeah, and I wonder, because when I seek any sort of support for myself, or like other forms of knowledge, healing, like ways of being for myself, it's because I'm coming from something that I didn't really want to be like, so now I'm seeking this kind of other thing. And so when you're saying I don't want to be too, like, you're not feeling too defined or like in a box, are you feeling like in your life there's been a lot of walls and rigidity and a seeking of some sort of definition of what you do and how you do it?
I think that's just the programs of society and what we've been born into, you know, and so of course then that shows up in our life and in our families and in our relationships and in the systems around us, because that's what it is right now. I know that there's this part of me that in my blueprint is here to really usher through and past these boxes and limitations. You know, I do a lot of work with astrology in terms of like how that has helped me understand myself and my blueprint, and also in helping people understand their blueprint. And still, even knowing all of this about myself, I don't over-identify with any of it. It just gives me a foundation for understanding how I was made, what I came here to do, and how I operate. But I get to be whatever I want. And, you know, I can utilize tools and skill and practice and everything to become whatever I want to be within my free will and sovereignty, you know, in amongst a society where there is so much, you know, pushing against us and where we have to fit into what is here. But in terms of myself, like, it is so prevalent in my natal chart. You know, I have like an Aquarian South node. And I've got like a ton of Uranus placements, and I've got a ton of Scorpio placements. Like Pluto is my chart ruler, you know, like I have a really well-rounded chart. So I'm just like, okay, that's great. Yeah. To have a well-rounded chart. Mm-hmm. But I know that in this life, I was going to have to move through a lot of transformation. Having Uranus be predominant in my chart, meaning I'm going to go through a lot of really like breakthrough moments that might come through radical change, not just societally, but also personally for yourself. Myself. Yeah. And that I am here 100% to question, to have very strong discernment. And that has always been since I was a child. I have very strong discernment, and to really want to pave my own way. I'm also an Aries sun. I'm a Leo Mars. Like, I've got a lot of fire.
Yeah, you got the zest.
You know, I've got a ton of water.
Yeah.
I mean, I've also got a lot of earth. I've got minimal air. But air comes through like Sky World, you know, like Diwatang Kaptan is like one of my guides and deities from our indigenous Bisayan culture, and through which I was given an indigenous name, and my connection to like all of the birds and all of the winged creatures and even like the angelic realms I feel really connected to. So I get all of that coding and all of that I don't have personally in my chart. I get that balance through the external around me, and then that we all do. We all have access to like being well-rounded in this way. But I was reflecting on how challenging this part of me that wants to push past the edges of things, that wants to break through the boxes of things, that needs to question everything and needs to do it a different way and my own way. How challenging that has been for my closest relationships, like my relationship with my mom. Mm-hmm. That's been a really challenging one, you know, especially because she's been like, you know, she's from the islands of the Philippines, you know, her whole understanding of everything comes from a really indoctrinated, like, Catholic lens.
And did she come, like, she was born there and then came here?
She was born in the Philippines. Okay. And they moved to Turtle Island, Canada, in like the 70s, you know, and so they were like, they're quite assimilated to
like the culture here.
And like quite detached from their indigenous culture for sure. Mm-hmm. But even sometimes just like the Filipino culture, consciously. Of course, it exists within the family, but
yeah.
they aren't necessarily conscious that they're upholding their ways of being that are just so innately as they are.
Yeah.
But it's been challenging for her to have me as a daughter, especially because there's not a lot of age difference between us. She had me quite young. And so I'm so fiery for her. And it's made it a difficult relationship.
I forget what her son was.
Her sun sign?
Yeah.
She's a Taurus.
Yeah,
and I got all the Taurus.
I knew what your dad was, and I was like, what is your mom? You know,
Yeah.
Right.
So like, and it's funny because I connect so beautifully. Like some of my closest sisters are Taurus.
Yeah, you do have quite a few.
And I like, even like my partner over the last 15 years had like really strong Taurus placements. I love the balance that, Taurians have, and my Venus is in Taurus, so it's like it's definitely a strong
sense, yeah.
one for me. But I think the way my fire, and like all of that, again, Uranus and like Aquarian energy that I hold so strong really pushes against her comfort zone, and she gets really bullheaded with me, but we're breaking through. That's the beautiful thing about breaking through.
Today too.
Yeah, there's a lot to break through, and it's not been an easy path, even in like romantic partnerships and like marriage partnerships. It'll always be my nature to push the boundaries.
Yeah.
Not for nothing. Not to be I was gonna swear.
You can swear. Yeah, you can
not
swear.
to be an
we
asshole.
Definitely have an explicit rating on the podcast.
Not for fun, not to push people's buttons, not to not to provoke people in that way. But also, yes,
So
me. You know me.
I know you.
I'm confronting. I'm confronting,
yeah,
and then like all of that, like Scorpio rising, and so. And tons of water too. Like it is my nature to go deep, to look what is at the back of the closet, to look at what's underneath the bed, because there's so much medicine there. And I know I am here to help usher through and break through these structures that are around us, that are so limiting to us, that are so oppressive to us as people, as families, as communities, as greater communities, as collectives. But it's not been easy for the ones around me.
No, it isn't, and to even keep some of those relationships throughout all of this learning and transformation is not something that people are able to really do either. Like a lot of relationships have to be cut. I'm sure that you had that experience as well, like friendships or connections that you're just like, we can't do this anymore. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, no one teaches us how to be in relationship. We only know what has been modeled for us, and what has been modeled for us has not been a right relationship. And that's been a big theme for everyone, clearly, but certainly in my life, that's been the biggest theme of the last few years, maybe longer, maybe always, but just really, really heightened at the moment. Certainly I've spent like the last year specifically just repairing extended family relationships. And I don't mean necessarily being the one doing the repair work, but just in having a greater awareness of how to be in right relationship with people, which is, I think, a podcast theme on its own that requires so much context and nuance and conversation. Being in right relationship and what it means to be in relationship. And I learned that from the land and from animals and from plants. I did not learn that from being in relationship with people. I had to pull away. It took a separation with my partner and the pandemic, to be isolated. Thankfully, like I was on the land when that all took place. And I you know, how that all was divinely orchestrated for me to be in that learning environment where I got to really see my patterns in relationships and understand how to be better in relationship, because language gets in the way in being in communication, and our wounding and our stories and what we project onto people gets in the way. But when you're building relationships with plants and with animals, it requires such a deep ability to listen and to connect to what is really subtle. So you have to be so rooted and grounded to begin with, and you have to hold space. You have to really be able to like come back into your body and to your senses to even be able to pick up on the slightest things that are available to us when we're communicating with the more than human world. And so that, when applied to being in communion with other humans, has been totally life-changing in now how I am able to be in relationship. And then also just understanding the energetics of all of it.
The exchange between
the exchange,
beings.
like the courting that we create with each other. You know, anytime we're in interaction with anyone, whether it is like a conversation or whether we're thinking about someone or whether we're in someone's vicinity, we are exchanging information energetically and attaching to people energetically. You know, and as someone who's done a lot of like healing work with people, you know, also being like a yoga teacher for a really long time and just space holding in general, I had to really learn how to not show up in that unhealed archetype where that saviorism exists and you think that you're the one that's healing the person.
Yeah.
We're just holding space. We're always just holding space, you know, and holding space for that person to get in tune with their own inner healer, right? And their body's own wisdom and stuff. But there's so much energetic detachment that has to be present for that. And even in finishing sessions, you know, like I cut ties the minute a session is complete
With the person that you're
with
doing
the
that
person, but that is our own boundaries that we have to hold too. Like,
Yes.
I'm not thinking about someone and the stories they shared and the things that they told me after they've left. You know, when we continue thinking about that person, we're continuing to
Like
attach
hold
courting
that,
and
right.
and continue a psychic, you know, connection.
And when you first started doing those things, did you hold those things for like, and then learn?
Yeah, and then
how
you
to
wonder
let it
why
go?
you're so drained, you know, like it.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many practices, and I think it's more widely talked about now and more like mainstream now to even talk about energetic hygiene and the practices that we need to be utilizing and implementing, not just as people who are practitioners and healing, but like out in the world.
Yeah. Right.
We are, this is the thing that's hilarious to me, is like, you're not a different person when you're in the healing room than when you're out in the world interacting, or you're in your home with your kids.
Right.
It's all exactly the same.
Yes.
Nothing changes.
Yeah.
It's not a different hat you wear. It's all the same thing. So
But to like uphold that.
These are ways of being.
Yeah.
Right? And so how I interact with anyone that is coming to do some healing work with me is the same way that I'm interacting with a partner or my children,
Right.
you know, or you and I, you know,
Yes.
like when we're not together anymore and you go home and you go your way and I'm going my way, there needs to be like a disconnection of the courting between us.
Right.
Like your energy goes back to you, you go on your way, my energy comes back to me, and this is just continues to keep us vital and responsible and accountable and aware of the energetics between people.
Yeah, and like sitting with you, I feel like I've known like who you are, and I've known you for quite some time, like a couple of years now for sure, like
Well,
at least like 6. Like, I don't
Back
know.
in White Rock, even before I moved to Chilliwack.
Right. Yeah, I feel like I had connected with you a little, but then it's really been in the last like, I guess 3-4 years that
Yeah.
we've had any sort of like actual stronger connections and spending more time together. And like, you've shared with me so much in that time, and I've learned a lot being in your presence, being in healing session with you, just shooting the shit, like whatever it is, you know, and like just talking about being a being. And that's something like I've taken a lot with me from our conversations, but I take with me a lot like this, and not to be like a wall, but just a like protection, like just with myself, with my energy, with whatever, like going out into the world, and also with others, because I feel like in a great state of like change right now. A lot of like shit has been like tossed up in the air, and I don't want to hold anybody's anything anymore at all. Like, I just don't feel like I can hold it, or I can mend it for you, or I can be there to like help support or guide you. Like, you kind of have to figure that out on your own. Like, you can be there to support someone, but I don't want to like take it I don't want to take it on anymore.
Yeah, I relate. I'm with you. I think we're all in a little bit of a place where we're figuring that out in deeper layers right now. It just really speaks to codependency in so many ways.
It is.
And it's this thing of like, we want to protect ourselves, and we recognize that we're individuals. And also, we're in an era of reunion where we're all trying to find our ways back to each other, back into connection, back into actually supporting community again. But it's like, how do we do these in clean ways that are actually empowering, that are grounded in right relationship?
Yeah, right relationship. And
right?
Like intentionality, you know.
And just being responsible with our own energy, our own emotions, you know. And I think that this is work that has required us to really separate first. Like, I tend to learn through extremes. I think that's like the scorpionic, Plutonian, energy that is part of my blueprint. But I tend to learn through extremes. So I often have to go to one extreme and then the other extreme to find that middle ground. And I think that actually really just speaks to the whole 3D experience anyways, because it's like polarities and dualities, and we're all in this place of where we're like bridging and finding the both end, the nuance, the complexities, the spectrum in all of it, right? That's where the goods are, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I had to really pull away from a lot of my relationships, you know. Again, that time in a quarantine really supported that. I wasn't hurt by it in any way. No, I love solitude.
I didn't find any issue with it at all. You know, I really welcomed it. I was like, actually quite excited.
I know. I find it a little hard to actually say that openly because a lot of people are really triggered by that.
Of course, yeah.
It was deep ease in my life at that time. Having the kids at home, I was in separation with my partner at the time, and I was on the land. There was a deep permissioning from life and an encouragement from life for those of us that were not essential workers that had to be at home. But I mean, for those that were essential workers, that's a completely different story. Having to continue to be out there, especially if you had like any kind of like compromised immune system, or for the elderly or anyone. I fully understand.
That was a very heightened time.
Yeah. But for me, it supported the
pullback,
the solitude that I really needed to be in, to really look at what's mine. What are these stories I'm continuing to uphold and perpetuate, especially because this was also walking parallel with like, I think the deepest part of my decolonizing process. That's when I was like really deep in connecting with my roots. Like I was doing a lot of ancestral journeying. I was connecting with a lot of the Filipino community that I have met, you know, through social media, because it's just bridged us that are spread out all across diaspora closer together. It's been wonderful having that time. So I was deeply connecting to my roots, to like my healing, you know. And it's weird the way I wasn't even seeking it out. This is what's really beautiful, is to just continue following the breadcrumbs and what is right in front of you and being with what is there in the moment. We don't have to actually seek anything out, because it started with just healing from separation, which led to some inner child healing, which you do a little inner child healing, you go far back enough and you're like, oh, this because of my parents. Oh, but my parents because of their parents. Oh, but then their parents because of colonization and forced migration and leaving the Philippines. And then, oh, this because of this. And like, you go far back enough and it just keeps giving you the next step of healing. And not to say that healing goes forever, but in some ways, yeah, it kind of goes forever.
There's a few things that are endless, you know, and it would be nice to find the almost end of the healing, but I don't think it's like good to seek it like forever in an unhealthy way, because there's like a constant like always wanting to heal. This, I feel like, is not really that supportive, but there is different things that are going to come up in your life that can be mended or looked at no matter what comes into your life. And some of those things are not going to be right relationship. It's going to be a lot of wrong relationship that is the catalyst. It's like, oh, okay, I have an area to work with here. And it shows you that.
Yeah, relationships, they are really showing us all of it. I think it's one of the main reasons why we are in relationship is, you know, if it wasn't for the other, we wouldn't even know we were the self.
Yeah.
Like, how would we even know that we were separate if it wasn't for the other? And it's a paradox, because it's like through the separateness and through the other that we realize that we're, you know, interconnected, right? Like, that was a beautiful teaching that, you know, we hear in a lot of ancient lineages, right? We hear that in, you know, South Asian communities and through yoga, you know, the oneness, but we hear it in lots. And in, you know, our Filipino culture, you know, we call it pakikipagkapwa, and that is the inherent connection we have to all and everything, and just this connection to the web of life, that we're all part of this web, you know. And I feel that in different ways. Sometimes I think in the beginning it felt more conceptual, like a thought, you know, but as we continue to experience, I've started to really feel it in a much deeper way, and now I can't not feel it. You know what I mean? And that's where I see the healing of people and the collective and our systems and the earth all coming back, is through this era of reunion. But you know, back to like what you were saying earlier, like, we're gonna have to all come back together at some point. But once we do some separate healing work, you know, some reconciling of some of the patterns that we've picked up along the way. You know, one of the things that helps me, and it's kind of silly, but I'm not on planes very often. I actually don't travel very often, but when I am on a plane and we're landing, I always love having the window seat. I have to fight my kids for the window seat. But I get to this place where we're not too high, but we're not fully on the ground yet, where I'm looking at, you know, the city and the cars going by and all the little houses, and it looks like a board game.
Yeah.
And I have this very clear feeling and remembrance that it is different than what we think it is, and that we sometimes over-identify with this experience too much. And I know how that sounds, you know. Of course we're going to over-identify. You know, when you're feeling pain, in your physical body, when you're feeling pain and grief in your heart, when you're, when you lose someone, when you see horrific acts of violence being carried out, of course we're taking it personally. But also we have to hold it from a higher place also at the same time, because we can get so stuck in just seeing it from the ground level and not seeing it from the bigger picture, and I really try to hold both, where possible, because I know that I'm here for a really short time, and this is all going to have to continue. It's all going to continue, and I might not even be remembered. You know what I mean?
There will come a point.
Exactly. There will come a point where
exists,
we're not remembered or anything. And so I'm like, gosh, we take some of these things way too seriously. Some of these things that we give such great importance aren't actually really all that important in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
I actually have this practice that I do quite often where, and I'm going to say like trigger warning, we're going to talk about death here. I am in no way afraid of death. I've done a lot of work I don't know what it is, facing my own mortality, holding mortality. I had a lot of initiations from life when it comes to symbolic death and actual, real, physical experience of death. And it is what it is.
Yeah.
It is inevitable.
Yeah.
Everything in life, is like,
it really like comes.
We really don't know.
Like, you don't know.
But birth and death, like
those are very.
It's gonna happen. We are all going to die, and we don't know when.
No.
And I think through that, knowing that, I sit and I think, if I was on, I'm making air quotes right now, deathbed, whatever that could look like. And we see it depicted in movies where like your whole life flashes before your eyes. But I think there's a part of us that remembers that moment in past lives, because I can really feel that in my body, and I feel it when I allow myself to journey there. What is going to be important to me in that moment? What am I going to think about as I'm about to approach my last breath in this incarnation, in this physical vehicle? I'm going to think about my family. I'm going to think about whether I said the things that I wanted to say. I'm going to think about whether I forgave people. I'm going to think about whether I allow my heart to be open.
Yeah.
I'm going to think about, did I do my best? I'm going to think about, did I love truly, or did I like keep walls up and not allow myself to love or be loved? Like, these things that we give a lot of attention and focus are not going to be the things that we think about as we're preparing to take our last breath. Yeah. And so when I think about that, it really helps me to put it into context. And I think that's what the last year of my life has been like, as I moved away from the mountain, where I held a lot of dreams of a life that, I was creating in my mind, a relationship that I was pedestalizing, and like, even in terms of my identity as, a space holder, and being able to support people through the nurture space, with the land, with the healing room. I really loved it up there. You know how much I loved it up there. I had deep relationships.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Formed with the land there. And it was a privilege and an honor to be there. My identity at that time was really wrapped up in that whole feeling, that whole vision, all of it, and I also was really clear when it was time to move, and that was for lots of different reasons. Our children, we felt isolated. I felt isolated.
After a while, too.
Yeah.
Like,
we need to be around people.
Yeah.
we do. As much as that's hard for me to say sometimes.
Yeah. But once you maybe go
we
through
need
the
to
few
be
years
around
of,
people.
Yeah, of the pullback.
But we just, exactly.
Yeah.
We have to learn the right formula for each of us. And respect the right formula for those around us.
And I find like too, like lately, and especially I've been talking to people a lot about life, and just honoring how you feel and what is coming up for you in this moment, and not arguing with it, like not even like working with it so much that you overthink it, overprocess it, over anything. If you felt, I'm here on this mountain, I've been here for a few years, I like feel ready, or I'm feeling something that isn't keeping me connected to this place. Now I'm having the word or the feeling of isolation. Not to think about it like too much, and just kind of like, yeah, okay, I think, okay, we'll do the next thing now.
Of course. And I think when we surrender to life and like stop trying to control all of it, which is also like a real survival technique that we've picked up.
Yeah.
It's also like deep conditioning to think we're in control of this.
Yeah.
Right? But like, I think when we surrender a bit of that, and we start to just, again, meet what's in front of us, we can start to see these pivots or these invitations to change as like a pivot, or at the very least, for me, it was like a completion of a cycle. You know, and we don't always recognize at first when it's a completion of a cycle.
Yeah.
So then something will happen that catalyzes it. And then it's usually in retrospect that we look back and we're like, oh, I see it now. I see it for what it was. I learned everything I was intended to learn there. And then, you know, this has happened and this happened, right? But I think with time, with awareness, with a release of control, and like a looking at things from a different place, we can start to see it as it's happening in real time. That I think when we really just are tuning into our body, you know, we can feel when something has come to completion, or when something is birthing new. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think we're all kind of feeling that in this actual moment right now, that we're in a completion cycle and a birthing cycle simultaneously.
There's a shift.
And we tend to want to really grasp at, well, what's next before we take that leap into completion, you know, because we want to know what we're moving into. I'm really,
like, is it safe?
Right?
Yeah.
You know, or it just gives us something to hold.
Yeah.
But I really am embracing this part of me right now that is just allowing for curiosity, because I don't want anything I've had before. I don't want anything I've ever known.
You really have to let go of like what might be or whatever.
Right?
Yeah.
I've seen everything we've had.
Yeah.
And not that any of that was bad.
No.
It wasn't. But I'm like, I want to see what we can do. I want to see what's possible. Yeah. I want to see what's beyond my imagination. Yeah. And so I have to hold that with such curiosity and hope, you know, and belief, like a child wonderment that comes only after we do so much inner child healing, that we can embrace the eternal child that is still excited and connected to imagination, and connected to wonderment, and connected to play. And it's hard. It's really hard in this world, in this, you know, political climate, in this, like, it just where we are in like late stage capitalism and like all of it, you know, like relationships all around are like crumbling. Not that I think that that's a bad thing. I think that that's actually there, you know, when something crumbles, all we can do then is like rebuild, right? So I already see newness taking place. I don't think people recognize that they're in the early stages of newness, because most people are so uncomfortable with what is unfamiliar and with what is uncertain. But that's the only way forward in some ways, because I don't want to, there's not a lot that we've already experienced and seen that I think can come forward with us. Some of it, you know what I mean? Some of it, but there's a lot of room for new to come through.
Yeah, and for myself, lately I've been working a lot just with no expectations.
Yes.
Like I have no expectations, like no, even if I go to a place that I've already been, I still will be very open to, like I won't try to like structure it in my head of like what the experience is going to go like or what it will be or what it'll look like or like who am I going to meet, whatever. I just feel very open to all of the things when I go to do them.
Yeah.
And there's no idea of like what may come. And I feel really happy to be stepping into that and just, it's working. Like I did it today because I was like, I don't know what the hell, I know
what we're going to talk about.
No questions, no nothing. You know, there's no expectation. And when I was at the Women's Festival in June, we had an Indigenous elder speak with us at the beginning of our like introduction of the festival. She was amazing. She was so powerful. And she was talking, and I took it with me, and I've used it so many times now, of that you cannot grasp on or hold on or take anything new on with closed fists while you're fighting.
Yeah.
You know, when you're grasping and fighting and you've got closed fists, you cannot receive, you can't pick up, you can't anything with the closed fist or even, yes, the fighting in yourself. The like tightness in the body, the rigidity in your ideas of what you think life is supposed to look like or go like, you know, and that you have to let go and like have this open hand, open palm and receive.
That's making me think of the thing that you were talking about having like a certain level of protection around you when you're out interacting in the world.
And it's not even like a full on like, leave me alone, fuck off, whatever, you know, it's just a like, just protecting my whatever, because I don't really want to take your stuff on. I'll receive whatever comes, you know, with this no expectation mentality. But I don't want to put up a negative wall.
Yeah.
There's like a barrier that you could cross.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Like a soft barrier.
There's this, yes. Yeah. You know, a little soft wall, you know? Like
It's funny, I've been calling myself a soft shell crab.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I've been calling, yeah.
There you go. I'm like a little Cancerian crab.
Exactly. You know me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my natal moon is in Cancer.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
just came out of Cancer season.
Yep. Now we're
I
in
have
ascendant.
the indigenous, you know, Ilocano symbol of Kapi, the crab, that's tattooed over my heart to like support as protection.
Yeah.
Because I was very protective of my heart. I'm like the Scorpio and the Cancer and the crab. So like there's some hard shells here,
yes.
you know, like
Yep.
people that usually meet me tell me that, you
There's
know,
a hard
at
shell.
first
Yes.
they're a little like not sure.
Yeah.
But then when
you
they
do
get to
carry
know me,
intensity.
there's
You
an
know,
intensity.
You carry intensity, you know. And I had even known you for many years, and then I connected with you, and I was like, she's intense.
Because
so,
they're
you know, like,
soft
but
in
a
there
good way.
too.
Yeah, they're soft in
They're
there
so
too.
soft
They're
in the
soft
middle.
in there too, and that's why I feel like I'm always in this kind of like place of just kind of like there's like a tough exterior or like some sort of wall that I do not let down, and then there's like this complete mush on the other side.
Yeah, I think that's a whole level of skill that we're all refining right now is, you know, because as an energy practitioner, it takes a lot of skill for someone to be in deliberacy and intention with closing down their energy centers and opening them back up. Not a lot of people can do that consciously, skillfully on their own. And so I find like a lot of the time when people are coming to see me to do some work, there's a lot of energy centers that are closed down because we do that unconsciously, you know, when we don't want to feel something or deal with something emotionally or, you know, even mentally or physically, or we've had like a trauma of some kind, big T, little t trauma, like will close a center.
Like you won't even know.
And
like,
you don't even know you're doing
idea.
it.
Like right now I'm reading Eastern Body, Western Mind.
Yeah.
And I've just started the root chakra, you know, chapter. and then just reading just the ways that you can, where it kind of gets blocked, or where there's how that could happen, ways to mend or start to heal that, whatever, and these are things, especially root chakra, that I feel that these are like early developmental stages of like things that you really had no say in, and you wouldn't even know that like that was something that is blocked. Or
yeah, it's like if you're in fear.
Yeah.
If you're in fear, and also not wanting to lean into your fear and breathe through your fear and confront your fear, if it's just like, oh, I'm in fear, let's shut this down, or let's distract, chances are you are unconsciously closing down your root energy center, right? You can have fear and feel fear and not and still keep your energy center open. It's through the conscious choice to acknowledge it. Your body's the most technologically advanced instrument. We get in the way.
Yeah.
We get in the way.
Yeah.
And so if we're just leaning into that fear, because we don't want to bypass our feelings either. That's bullshit. I've never been about it.
That's it too, and that I think happens a lot when you start to develop or like start to learn these things about your life and yourself and spirituality, whatever. There's like so much bypassing that goes
it's
on.
because I think people assume that spirituality is going to make your life better. That has not been
I took the wrong time
my experience. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Whitney just spit out her coffee.
My dandelion coffee.
Yeah. Spirituality has not made my life easier.
No. But
it is demanded
beautiful.
A lot.
Yeah.
Of course, it's given my life a depth.
Yeah.
And for someone like, I have always been a truth seeker. Like, I want the truth. I don't care if it's the hard truth. I don't care if it's the truth that hurts, but I want the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would rather know the truth than not know.
Yeah.
And so there was no other way for me.
But don't you feel that, especially like as someone who's maybe a little more tuned in, but also as women, I feel like we know the truth very easily too.
Yeah, well, it's because we have a direct connection to source, having the womb in the body, right? The womb is the connection to source. It's the connection to the earth mother. We are.
And all of the times that I know that I've been able to know the truth without question, without anything, it's just like, or just seeking the truth. I just feel like I already know what the answer is. It's
we
like
do.
Something happens and I'm like, no, that's not what happened.
It's so tricky though, because even the word truth, like, it's undefinable because everyone has their own truth. And also our truth is subjective. The more we know becomes the truth. The more we unknow becomes the truth. The more we learn, the more we, like, the truth is malleable. It changes constantly. But like, I think when I say truth, I mean just like that part of our spirit that's connected to source creator, and like that spark of life that is alive and well, that can take on a lot of definitions, like when I say even truth, even as a child, I'm very conscious memories of being a young child and being in my body and wondering how I'm able to be in this body and look out these eyes. And how did I get here? And why am I here? And what is the purpose of all of this? And why do we have jobs? I don't want to have a job. I don't want to go to school.
We're very similar, you and I.
Like every time I looked at the stars when I was a kid, I was like, how did we get here? And I think we all have this thing of truth that pulls at us internally, but we don't have language for it. And then you come into a world, where language, especially, for those of us, we've grown up in a pretty modern world where we're disconnected from indigenous language, and indigenous languages had and held so much more nuance and connection to relationship with land and to just relationship with everything. It was like relational language. And now we have like very colonized languages
separateness.
And I think it's very intentional. Like even the words that we speak are casting spells constantly. I'm trying to be very aware of the words that I choose to speak. I get really upset with some of my close friends who say really unkind things out loud about themselves, or, just, and it's human, like when we're having a shit day, to just say something out loud, but I'm like, I will then speak prayers over my friends, even prayer. Prayer has been a humongous part of my, again, air quotes, spiritual practice. For a long time. It's something I had to decolonize for myself and reconcile with, because when I think of the word prayer, I think about the indoctrination, of Catholicism and my mother, and just that really distorted relationship we had growing up, and what she was trying to push on me and what I didn't believe in and connect with. But when I connect with the word God, for me now, it's so beautiful. It's my own. And when I connect with the word prayer, it's my own. And I also know that like prayer or oración, which is, the Filipino way, like these are just out loud conversations with God, with spirit, with source, with life. And we weave magic in this way, and speaking really clearly and intentionally, and then we see it, in mainstream world now used as like affirmations, and in ancient cultures it was mantra, right? And like, and every culture had their own, and I feel like language is there's almost like this thing I'm noticing where we're losing the ability to communicate with ease, maybe like we used to, because we can't give language and context to the things we're actually feeling inside. Mm-hmm. And I think that's on purpose, because we're all being really invited to tap into our intuition and all of the different ways we experience intuition in the body. And like everyone has access to intuition. It's a part of this instrument. It's part of our connection to source, and this new, and also the brain is changing. The DNA is changing as we continue to evolve in consciousness and evolve as a human species. Like all of this extra DNA, junk DNA that we quote unquote have, and we use like such a small percentage of our brain. As we continue learning more conceptually, and then integrating more and experiencing more and actually shifting our life, we start to use more of our brain. We start to access more of these codes within our DNA system, which I think is the remembrance work that we're all doing, all this ancient coding in our DNA. And also we're getting upgrades too. We're getting upgrades from the sun, we're getting upgrades from the earth, we're getting upgrades from the celestial currents and in the waters. Like everything is changing, and that's all happening through the body, And so I feel like language is changing. I feel like we're all starting to understand each other, and we're speaking more frequency and energy and vibration with each other. Like you could just feel whether you want to be in this person's presence or whether you don't. Sometimes you can feel what's being said through an image that someone puts up, and someone else might put up the exact same image, but you feel something completely different. Right? I think we're experiencing greater telepathy with some of our closer connections. I know I had telepathy with my partner. I have it with my best friend. Like, there's just, and like we have these ways of knowing inside. And I think that is one of the most important things to be tapping into right now, because there is such a vast amount of information that's just being shared everywhere, especially having access to platforms, you know, where information is being shared. And then also, I think part of like, some of the information gets co-opted and used against us to help, you know, like the agendas that are, you know, being carried through. Like, it's just information overload. I'm an information overload, and all I want to do is just really listen to my own body's wisdom and my own channel, my own connection, my own DNA, you know, my own ancestors. It's been time for me. That's why I've gotten really quiet. I haven't been sharing a lot. I haven't been doing the work to pass on a lot right now because I'm in deep integration of what the last couple of years has been for me, and all the changes that have all been part of like the level up and the next phase of the journey for me, you know, in this eldership and training.
I like the responsibility of those who are in some sort of seat, and we know this, but it's like anybody who's some sort of teacher, guide, healer, whatever it is, like all of these kind of things that people are in, when they do acknowledge that there is also time for self, and they don't have anything really to give, and they don't keep giving from that place when they don't really have anything that's naturally coming to you. Like there's many times where I have nothing to give anymore, or I have nothing to write or share or to give or whatever, and it's really actually where I a lot of the time will then remind everyone that they don't actually need me, like, you know, to tell them anything, and just to like tune into how you feel. But I think it's great responsibility, and it's the right way to know that you don't really have anything to like give right now, so I won't. Because anytime I've like not honored myself in that way and just kept going, it never turns into anything great anyway, you know, like it just is really dishonoring actually to myself and to everyone. There's nothing of actual quality or substance there, you know.
Yeah, it's really hard, you know. That's why I never wanted this work to be a business, because I can't operate that way. You know, I would, for myself personally, and I'm on the fence with this sometimes, because I do hear people talk about how it would be so great if, you know, the work that you're really passionate about is also the work that is
like what keeps you afloat kind of thing.
What is. But I'm in a real place of discerning for myself how I want to invest in these economies. I haven't decided yet how I want to operate in the world in regards to money, and in regards to business, and in regards to just myself. You know, I'm devoted to divesting from capitalism where possible, and I also know that, like, that's, you know, we live in the world. We have to find a way to live within the world while these systems still exist. And do I think that capitalism is just going to dissolve? No, but I think that there are different ways that we're going to participate and be in relationship with it. And I'm in a place of figuring those out for myself. So at the current, you know, I run a company, and that is where I make money to support my life. And then, like, the work that I share with community, like, at some point before, you know, I did entertain that becoming, you know, a business, but that was even like pre-COVID, even in opening the nurture space. The whole point that I opened the nurture space was because I didn't want to be tied to a lease at a brick and mortar, where then I would have to compromise my values and beliefs because I had to pay rent.
Yeah. And answer to somebody
and answer
else.
to someone. Yeah. And also, like, as rent goes up, then prices go up, and like
Everything.
it just becomes a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
So I feel for
And
the
then you're
people
not
who are
offering.
business owners,
Yeah.
who their livelihood is directly tied to their medicine, and how hard it would be to separate that and to also stay nourished, stay rested, stay well. Like that I couldn't do, because I don't know that I could do that, and I don't know how I will continue to do that. I don't know how that's all going to unfold, but I think it's tricky, and I agree with you. I think that if I know that people are looking to me in any way, and I'm, I mean, we all are being looked at in some way. We're always constantly setting an example. To me, that is the very definition of integrity, right? Like everything we do sets an example to, whether it's my children that are looking to me, you know what I mean? Like anyone. And so I want to be always someone that like walks the talk, you know what I mean? And so when I am in pause, it's not even necessarily because I don't have anything to offer. It's just because I'm in pause. It's just, I'm in my life. I know and honor my rhythms, and it's taken a lot of, maybe harder experiences and challenges that, you know, forced me to learn this lesson, because I haven't always known this. Yeah. I definitely pushed myself beyond my means many, many, many times. And so, you know, call it life experience that comes, you know, wisdom that comes with life experience at the tender age of 44, where I now will honor my body's rhythms, but also like, I know, I've always known that sharing with the people around me, whoever that is, whether that's my immediate family, whether that's people in my community, whether that's people, you know, on social platforms, you know, whoever feels drawn to me, to learn from me, to experience, exchange energy, or whatever it is. We're always learning from each other, but I always know that it's the stuff that I'm moving through in that current time that's the most relevant to share. But I often wait a little bit to share it because I want to integrate it. You know what I mean? Like, I think the integration lessons and how I've applied it, and that's where like a way of being came from when I shifted from like nurture your nature to a way of being. Yeah. Like, that was just the next level of integration, and this just becoming like the medicine. It just is who we are. You know what I mean? The wisdom has to just be who we are and how we're showing up every day. This is the greatest impact that we have in the world, in our homes, in our communities, in our bodies. You know, like, I've done so much work to call all parts of myself home. I don't want to be fragmented anywhere. And so I think, you know, ways of being and just continuing to explore that phrase, I really love it. I try to weave it wherever possible because it's such a reminder for me to just be in my life, be in my body, be in integrity, be the medicine, be what's already here. There's nothing more to seek. There's no more trainings. There's no more this. There's no more that. It's all already here. Yeah. Let's start accessing what's here, refining what's here, getting skillful with what's here, getting masterful with what's here, and being a living example of what is possible in our humanness, in our multidimensionalness. Yeah. You know, like, I know my biggest legacy is going to be my children. I know it's going to be, and also why I'm like spending so much time with my extended family and like really bringing a lot of reparations to our relationships and the foundations of our relationships, all relationships, you know, like I really noticed that the greatest work that I'll ever do and the most important work to do is like right here, what's right here exactly and within my closest vicinity.
Yeah.
It is the most important work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to come into that awareness. Yeah, it's been like a really great shift in just being able to prioritize my energy for being here right now in what is right in front of me.
And like living this feeling or this truth too.
And living this truth and living this rhythm and living this pace and living in this, I don't know what's next, you know? Like, I really don't know what's next. No, I really don't.
No, we don't know.
And even like from leaving the mountain to eventually being where I am at this current moment, like I remember so many people were so invested in the journey with me because everybody loved the land on the mountain. Yeah. Everyone connected with the land on the mountain.
Yeah.
You know, I love that we were all able to connect with the land on the mountain in that way. It was so special. Like the connections that allowed me to make with people, you know, and just really feeling like the love and you know, the grief of everyone else as I was grieving that transition.
Right.
I really, like, that was not just, you know, me.
What's interesting for me, and I think maybe others would know this too, depending, you know, but for me, I know that you've shifted and moved a lot. So I was like, well, there was part of me that was like, you might stay there for a long time. Like, there was part of me that thought that you may be there for like 10, 15 years because it was like, really in tune. You felt, I think that like from my perspective, I was like, she's very like contented here. She's with the land. She's like really coming into a whole new aspect of herself that I've never seen before. I think others had never seen in you, you know? And so I thought that you would be there for a while. And then there was like a remembrance for myself that I was like, I don't know, Angela, she might like leave and like she'll surprise us. Because like to me, when you're like, I'm leaving, I was like not surprised.
Yeah.
But I was surprised. I was like, oh, whoa.
It was fast.
It was fast.
Yeah, just to give context to everyone that's listening, I was sharing with Whitney when she arrived here today that I have moved approximately like 40 times. Maybe not quite that much. Between 30 and 40.
A lot.
I mean, 10, you know, that's a big, oh my God, I'm losing words right now. But
it's a lot of shifts.
That's a lot. That's a lot of moves. And you know, that might be hard for a lot of people to understand. Again, it speaks to the blueprint I came here with, and also the Uranus aspects of my chart. Also, my Aquarian South Node is in the 4th house of home, right? So I've moved homes a lot, and I think a lot of the journey for me was about learning that home is not something outside of ourselves, but something that we create, embody, right? But also, it was practice and initiation for me. You know, as someone who works really easily with energy, I needed to move a lot because I restore energy to spaces, and that is a skill that I've been refining. My formal education is in interior design, and I spent a lot of my like early 20s, actually all of my 20s doing that work. I did some like freelance work. I did all kinds of stuff in that area. I didn't love that as work because it was, you know, more structured and controlled, and I worked at it from more of an energetic standpoint. I'm not like the show me a magazine and let's, you know, design a home like this, let's recreate this. No, I like work with people's energy, their personal style, and it doesn't matter. We don't need to work with new things. I don't even like I hate the waste that is involved in renovations and in like construction and trends. I really like just I can restore the energy to and bring energy to a home. I've been able to do that since I was a child. I used to go to my friends' houses and be like, let's rearrange your room. And then I would like rearrange and clean their room and make it feel better for them, because I could always feel how energy flowed in a room. I used to do that all the time. My dad knows how to do this and has been able to do it his whole life, you know? And so it's beautiful. I still love it. I like to work with color, but again, there is an aesthetic quality to it because I'm Venus and Taurus, right? Like I do love
like a
beautiful
space.
things.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
help it.
No,
I like
me
texture.
neither.
I like quality.
Yeah.
Something has to look beautiful, but more than that, anyone that's been to any of my homes, I get a million compliments when people come over. Always about the way it feels. I've always been able to do that. And funny story, when we sold the house up on the mountain, the person who came to look fell in love with it. They were like, I love this. I love this. I want this. Of course, they wanted it, right? They just saw the whole thing, felt the whole thing, and they were like, I want this life. I want to buy this life. Okay? Then, of course, we moved.
The stuff came out.
All of the stuff came out, but it's not just about the stuff.
But the way that it energetically...
My energy left that house. I
Yeah.
called all of my energy back.
Good on you, yeah.
All of my energy called back. I said goodbye to the land. I closed ties. I was in ceremony with the land for probably 2 months, maybe longer, before we left. You know, and same thing when we moved there. I was in ceremony with the land. I buried our intentions into the soils. I connected with all of the trees. Like, there's a whole process for me of building relationship and also completing relationship, you know? And so I bring the story up because when we left, we heard like months later, just from like someone who bought the house, that they were really upset because it didn't feel the same anymore.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
You know, I even heard that they cut down many of the elder trees that were there, which was really,
horrible.
really, really, it was a sad day for me.
Yeah.
It was a sad day. But that just, to give it context, you know, for people listening, you know, the indoctrination in people and the way people are severed from themselves and severed from their relationships with the land, and think that you can just buy a lifestyle without putting any work into it, without having these deep roots and like right relationships. Even caring for the walls of a home in itself is a living entity that requires care and intention and commanding. You know, we can command, you know, maybe that's not the right word, but we can speak, you know. And so like, it just, yeah, we need to just really connect deeper, you know. But yes, I've moved a lot.
Yeah,
I have moved a lot.
Yes, you have.
And also I was mentioning to you that part of that work isn't just in like the energetics of the home and the land itself. You know, I've also, again, I don't like these labels and terms, but I've heard it used like earth gritters. It feels really new agey to me. And just, I think our ancestors did this work, you know, long before we had words like earth gritters, but, you know, there is a multidimensionality to earth gritters that I do appreciate. But we carry codes, and we also receive codes through connecting with different lands, building relationship with different lands, different waters, different plants, different, you know, nature beings. And, you know, because we're conduits, our bodies are instruments and we're conduits, and we're always doing this work, knowing and unknowingly. I'm a knowing of it, that it is part of the medicine that I am here to carry. So I also know that that has been part of what has moved me around from place to place, specifically our time living in the Amazon of Ecuador and our time living up in the mountains of Xolotl here in Chilquec land, and, you know, my times when I'm visiting Nayarit, my times in visiting the Yukon. Those are like specific areas where I know I'm being called to do some, you know, code gridding and stuff. And again, it's more of a thing that I'm applying language just for the sake of people being able to have a little bit of an idea of what I'm talking about, but the language is limiting, it's floofy, and, you know, we're just in relationship. We're part of this web, and we are a part of evolution, and there are really big changes happening right now.
The thing is the feeling. You know, the feeling is like, yeah, the language, like you can sit with anyone who's going to tell you like how to be and what to do and whatever, and like you can't just like apply that language necessarily, you know. You also have to like apply, yes, your feeling of like what you want to follow and what is coming through to you, like what the truth is for you.
Absolutely.
You know, and like something that you told me this a few months ago, and I've actually used it. There's many things you tell me that I use later on to other people. I'm like, yeah, I was like, Nicole told me, you know, but we talked about the like colonization and capitalism in like schooling and trainings and certifications in like, I don't know, Reiki, whatever, like yoga, all this stuff. And I remember it was a couple of years ago now, and you said to me, have you done any work with your inner child? And I said, no, I've never like gone to anyone or talked to anybody about my inner child or like sought out any healer that works with that, you know, whatever. A lot of air quotes in this episode.
Yeah, lots of air quotes.
Like, okay, don't take it too seriously, you know. And you looked at me and you're like, you don't need to go to anyone to find that. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, whatever. And like, I think I've always had a small understanding of that, but when somebody says these things to you, then you're like, oh, I don't? Okay, I don't need to hire someone. Or like knowing that even the yoga practice, like I think to myself, like, yes, I ended up getting certification, but was I already like teaching random fun classes to my friends like before I was a teacher?
Yeah, I hear you. It's a double-edged sword, this conversation, because I do in some ways think it's important to learn from someone who is experienced, integrated.
But I just say also picking wisely who you choose
Absolutely.
to learn from.
Like,
you know, where are you
like I
learning
think in
this?
some places certification is important because, I mean, previously, because it at least was a way of upholding that there was a certain amount of learning that took place, skill, you know, and application, as well as like even practice, you know what I mean? But the way certification is now, it's like, it's more of a money maker. It's more of a money maker. But like, I think, you know, I love the old traditional ways where you were initiated into something or something was passed down to you. Like you know, my bestie Navi, she talks about lineage work for so long, and I learned so much about lineage work through her devotion to her lineage. It really opened up my awareness to really wanting to understand more about my own lineage. And I'm so glad I did, because whatever, like 6-7 years ago when I started doing that work, it immediately connected me to all of these inherent things that were already there, but gave me deeper roots for it. And yeah, like I think roots, lineage, because when you're part of a lineage in something, there is a different level of responsibility you feel. There's a different level of honor that you feel versus like you took a course online, you never met the teacher, it was just a workbook and you paid $500 for it. you're detached. There's no attachment to it. You know, like I've done my Reiki attunements, you know, many different times for many different schools. The first one was whatever, I don't even know, 2008. You know, like my partner at the time, my sister-in-law, my father-in-law, and my father-in-law's wife were all what we would call in Western yoga, or not Western yoga, Western Reiki, as Reiki masters. So I received attunements then. But part of me was like, well, I didn't get a certificate for it, so I want a different one. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then, you know, a few years later, I went to a retreat where I received different Reiki attunements, as well as some energy healing training. It was really great, actually. I went to Roatan with my sister Ananda, and we spent a week on a really beautiful, secluded island. It was very connected to the land. We had a really good teacher. I would say that energy healing, learning like the energy healing techniques, and we received like attunements with the waters, and we did a lot of really great stuff. We did a lot of like journeying. It was really great. I really, really enjoyed it. But I also received my Reiki attunements there, you know, and, you know, fast forward a little bit, I met Mari Okazaki, and I learned more that Reiki, you know, in its traditions and in its origins, I always knew it came from Japan, but I didn't realize like how different Western yoga, or why do I keep saying yoga? I think because it gets so intertwined.
Everything, yeah.
You know, like it's so...
It does happen.
Poppy, pop culture.
Yeah.
I'm even combining them as I'm speaking about them. But like the Western
the
Western Reiki, you know, is so different from the traditional Japanese Reiki that I reattuned under a lineage. Wow. I reattuned under a lineage. And as someone who's trained in both Japanese traditional Reiki and also Western Reiki, they don't even compare. They're both useful. Mm-hmm. I don't want to take away from Western Reiki at all. It's useful, but I think it really comes down to the practitioner and what the practitioner is upholding, you know, because the tradition and what you're held accountable to and the level of learning and practice and embodiment that is expected before you are initiated into Japanese Reiki. You know, like you become part of a lineage. There is a ceremony when you are receiving your, you know, like your special paper with the Japanese caricatures and like, you know, like I am 5 descendants down from Master Usui. You know, like that's how it's been passed down. That's a deep honor to me. Yeah. You know, like I'm not going to veer off the path, you know? Mm-hmm. Like it's interesting. I hold a lot of both and in things because I think there is a place for tradition and really upholding tradition and being honorable with tradition and naming tradition. And I think there's also an important place in innovation and being able to carry things forward, you know? So I'm not saying like things have to always stay traditional. Right. But I think we need to be able to not lose the tradition and always be able to preserve it in some context, maybe while also bringing innovative changes forward, as long as it's actually supporting something.
It needs to be in intention and in reverence and like respect.
Absolutely.
For those things.
Like,
and like for me, I'm only involved in the yoga world, really, in like any sort of, you know, we mean to say yoga here, by the way. We mean to say yoga. We're not trying to say Reiki here. Yeah, I'm only involved in the yoga like space, and it's in all the spaces, right? Like it's in all the areas where it's just, it gets mixed up, and I am feeling a lot like I want to like deep dive more in like rooted tradition, but I also am feeling like a big disconnect and like non-interest in any sort of work with asana and doing pose work. I just don't feel, I feel like good on that for myself. I feel like my body's a little bit done with it.
Yeah,
like
you need a break. I took a break. I took a break for years.
You need a break, you know, and like I did a vinyasa class the other day and I was like, what is this? I was like, this hurts so bad. Like, what the fuck is going on, you know? And I was like, I just need like yin restorative. I can work with that for myself in like any sort of giving or offering. I don't want to be giving or offering anything to do with yoga poses anymore, like at least in this moment or at all.
Yeah.
I like being in the seat of a teacher. I do really like it. Like I like guiding a space and like creating nice spaces or doing like workshops, events, creating something that's beautiful and wonderful. But I find that there's like there's a different path now, and it just feels much more like educational, maybe bhakti path, stuff like that, you know, just walking that instead, because not only do I feel a little bit like just spaced from the asana work, but also to me there just feels like there's a high concentration of asana work, and both in those same places. I would say in Vancouver, like Lower Mainland, let's say, there's like a lot of asana in like a not so respectful way of yoga. Yeah. And then there's a good amount of asana that is in the respectful way. Yeah. You know, there's both. There's definitely both. But I would say it's much more on the non really like honoring yogic path.
Yeah. I know. We're funny as humans, aren't we? Mm-hmm. Like, and I really like salute, you know, and give props to people wanting to express creativity and explore innovation and all of these, you know, and push the envelope and break through the boxes and things like that.
And bring something, like bring your own.
Yeah, but I think we have to always be asking the question, like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this?
It's extremely important.
Like, what is the purpose of this?
Yes.
What is this helping to inspire or, you know, just create? You know, like the why is a really, and we hear people talk about the why all of the time, but I don't know that it gets asked enough. I think a lot of people are still doing like shock value a little bit, or just always trying so hard to reinvent the wheel. They just gotta offer something that's just so different, you know, for the sake of just being different, that it like loses
purpose, or like
like the purpose of it, you know. And it just,
and I really love any of my other work right now that isn't yoga related, that still weaves in practice, but I appreciate this, like podcasting. I appreciate like the photography sessions. I like the dating event that I've done. Like I love those things, and those have been like prosperous more for me, let's say financially, that now when I bring the practice to the world and the yoga, I offered most things for free, or like just there's like or a sliding sale by donation. I don't actually want anything really for the yoga that much. I just want to be able to give it from like a really true, and when I'm ready for it, place. Like I don't think I would want to teach a weekly class right now that I was paid for. I just don't.
You're just there. That's just where you are in your path.
That's
where
I am right now.
Yeah,
you know.
I feel you. I think it's great that you're giving yourself a lot of space to just change your mind. You know, I did it too. I stopped teaching yoga classes and offering yoga classes. I think a pandemic, and didn't really come back to it just because it didn't feel aligned anymore.
It doesn't have a feeling.
I actually didn't even practice much. My body needed a break from it a little bit too, and I came back to a qigong practice. I came back to a Falun Dafa practice that I used to practice a lot and then had to step away from. Like, I need a little spice and variety in my life.
Yeah, I love the mix.
I lose, when something becomes too monotonous for me, I lose interest in it. And I've learned over time that my creative spark is really, you know, it's like kept alive by the things that I'm passionate about, and, you know, switching things up a little bit. And I do sometimes find myself coming full circle back to something. Like I'm coming back to an asana practice right now, because my body really needs movement, and weightlifting and weight training has been a little hard on my body, and like the yoga is giving me the ability to like, it just supports my body, you know, in a different way. And then I sometimes, you know, as I'm attending classes around me, and there's really not a lot available to me where I am right now, so I go with what's there. Sometimes I'm like, gosh, I should really start offering some classes again, just for fun, you know, maybe something in the backyard, just for fun. Yeah. But, you know, it's just, I don't want to commit to anything too much. I just want to play where I'm able to play. Like, I keep my play in my play area, and then I want to keep my work in my work area. And I don't really want to intertwine the two, because it, you know, when sometimes the things that are playful and creative for us become the work thing, of course it's going to lose its spark and fun and playfulness. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I like the very free and non-committal plans and things like that are just kind of like, yeah, come if you want to or not, whatever. And I think for me, I've noticed that if you've been in a place of facilitating proper gatherings for a long time, you do get a little bit, sometimes, at least for myself, I get a little bit done with making everything so perfect and wonderful and like planned and all these things. Like, it's just, I don't even want to make, let's say, like, you know, you have to make content if you want to host a workshop.
Yeah.
You know,
it's tiresome. It is tiresome.
Right.
I even find that with making posts.
Yeah.
And that's, I cannot, there's a lot I want to share and say, but to write a post, no thank you. Yeah. I've been just posting a lot of pictures and stuff lately. Yeah. It's like, I haven't sent a newsletter in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Because I just, the whole process of trying to package myself in a box right now feels really, like I lose the spark of creativity and pleasure and joy in it. That I'm in a place of like this feels like such ease right now because we're two friends having a conversation. We also have worked together in our, like, we've co-created together too, you know, like we both respect each other's work, you know, so this feels like a bridge of many different things, right? But there's an ease in it. Well, you've done all of the work, setting up all of the equipment. You came all the way out here. You know, I just get to show up in my own home and like sit on my couch and talk.
No, it's fine. You know, at least we get to go swimming.
I'm diminishing the amount of work you've put in. I apologize for that.
No, but there is an ease. There is an ease. It's a lot of why I wanted to do the podcast and that I wanted to talk to people, because 2 reasons. I wanted to learn for myself, and I wanted to talk to people. I just like talking to people. Like, I don't know. It's just nice to sit one-on-one with someone and talk about life.
It's really true.
Yeah.
It's really true to just sit. It's not packaged.
No.
I mean, you're going to have to package it edit it in the way that you do.
Content.
Yeah, I know. So I appreciate that work that you're doing, because I definitely have not had the capacity to package.
The capacity lowers with time too. And it comes and goes. Yeah. It comes and goes.
You know, and I've also noticed, well, not noticed, I've always known this about myself, but again, I'm coming back to it, is that there's a level of spontaneity that is necessary in my creative work.
Yeah.
And I have to follow that, you know, and we have to constantly be reminding ourselves as we're listening to people talk and share. So, you know, like as everyone's listening to Whitney and I, like we're sharing from our experiences and what works for us. But that's not going to work for everybody else. You know what I mean? Spontaneity might not be the thing that works for my Virgo sister that needs to really like take time to plan and organize. Yes. And that works best for her. Yeah. You know, but spontaneity in a lot of ways is like how my creativity, you know, works best. And so...
and no expectation on the creativity either. I don't like to set up for anything. Like, even nowadays, like in my small business meeting, people will talk about that. They're like, oh, I should post, like I need to post this much, or should I do this, should I do that? I'm like, I don't do any of that shit. I don't like follow anything. I just, when I feel I want to, or I have something to share, then I will.
Yeah, that's always been like my go-to way.
I think it's crucial.
With social media. I remember, I think it was like, I don't know, 5 or so years ago, I won a ticket to be part of this like branding course, you know, and so I went, and it was all about like how to work with social media strategies and how to like brand yourself. And it was like 9 hours of talking, and these women were really good at what they were doing. They were really good at building businesses for other people, but I just really quickly recognized that that was not at all in alignment with me, with, not that I was even trying to necessarily create a business. That was the whole point, was like I wasn't trying to create a business. I just really wanted to share.
Yeah, and you can get some tips where you can pull out the tips separate from like trying to make business.
But it's just more than anything. It's not shade. For someone, that's exactly what they need and what they're really good at, and it probably relates to their blueprint in some way, and that's great. For me specifically, that's like I have a North Node in Leo, I have a Mars in Leo, and I have a Midhaven in Leo. So like we are in Leo season right now. And there's a lot being activated in me right now. But like creative expression, just like raw, authentic creative expression is always been what has worked best for me and what kind of life guides me and pushes me towards. And then I definitely feel the effect that has, just in actually engaging and connecting with the people that we're meant to engage with. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. I really love this whole era that it feels like we're coming into, where like everyone authentic is feeling, and this word is just really overplayed, authentic, but like it, where people just are really showing up more fully and getting to know themselves more fully. And like, I really love it. Yeah. I get really tired of the curated stuff. Everything kind of looks the same to me and feels the same to me.
I find that it looks like online a lot of the times, like depending on what you're following, it just seems like there's a lot of like selling to you. Like
it's all ads. It's all,
I find it exhausting. I don't even look at them because I know that that's what it is, and I just glaze right past it, even if it's like not that someone that I know, because if it's someone that I really know, I look at it because I care, know. But if it's like someone that you have like a distant relationship with, I really
it's hard though. And again, I even like relate to that because everyone is trying to find some way to create some financial freedom for themselves, so they have more spaciousness to be in their life because of these systems that we live within, like I think everyone inherently like wants the same thing, to enjoy their life, to like have good relationships, to feel like they're also in like some type of service in some way, but we're just really going about it and learning it in our own ways, which we're supposed to. We're supposed to learn it in our own ways, in our own paths. So of course, as we look around, things are going to look, different. We're not all doing it the same way.
Yeah, that's true. It's true, and like this choice of who comes into your life and who doesn't, and like who you want to be around and who you don't.
And what you feel resonance with, like it's speaking vibrations now, right? Like some people, your energy and their energy are going to make a harmony, and then some people, your energy and their energy is going to make some noise, and that's like, it's not going to sound good. And like, it can be really as clean as that, and that's it.
And that's it. And so it is. And so it is, Nicole. Yeah.
That kind of felt like a...
Yeah.
Did that feel like the wrap-up point right there?
I'd say probably, yeah. Do you want to say anything else? Is there anything else you want to share? Anything else you need to say?
Oh, man, I feel like anything is just going to turn into another really long story. No, but this was nice. It was nice to just be able to be in conversation, talk about some things that are real and present right now, and I appreciate the work that you're doing to give people some space to just share what's on their hearts.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing this space with me.
Yeah. Thanks for driving over and doing all of the unseen work that nobody knows that she puts into this. Like, she's got this huge suitcase here with a whole bunch of cameras, all of these cords all over the floor. Like, this woman works hard hard. There's a lot of unseen work. I always like to give props to all the unseen work that people don't recognize are there, because it's all that unseen work that's like really part of these webs that bridge these conversations, this kind of work, like these ways of being.
Yeah, it just shows up on their phone,
Yeah,
or on their platform, and like, how the
shows
fuck
up.
is this magical thing? And I'm like, no.
She's gonna edit.
Yeah, we gotta do shit.
My
now.
awkward introduction in the beginning.
Oh, I love you. Oh, thank you so much, Nicole.
Yeah, thank you too. Thanks for listening.